Members, we're going to go on to item 9. I should have said it's now 1:41, and we're back in session. And we'll go on to item 9, the Board Governance Policy Annual Review and Update, presented by Ms. Himovitz, representing the Chief Counsel.
Good afternoon, Julia Himovitz on behalf of the Legal Department. So as you recall, the members have chosen to bring forward changes to their governance policy or do a review annually. Before you and attached to PAN are the 4 proposed changes that we received prior to posting PAN. As you recall, Member Schaefer presented changes he wished to incorporate. Those have been provided before you again for your consideration. Additionally, we've included Member Vasquez's changes regarding the resolution policy, and then legal has provided 2 technical changes as they relate to law changes. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. Otherwise, you can take this in a single vote, or you can separate the changes if you wish.
I have a comment.
Mr. Schaefer.
Well, I waived my 3 minutes today. I can tack it on to next month if I want to. And mention of a birthday, that's brief. That's not included.
Well, I think you might not meet the test of carrying over 3 minutes to a different meeting. But it's a good try. Other questions or discussion from Ms. Himovitz? Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You've incorporated all the changes that we've submitted? Okay, because I'm looking at my notes here, and I got some in red and some in yellow, and I just want to make sure that they're listed.
So if you look at the attachment to PAN, we've provided a memo, and along with that memo, the pages that contain the requested changes have been included. My copy is in black and white, so I can't tell you, but I believe the color is done in red. And we've added the board resolution policy that you requested last month.
Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Gaines.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair Lieber. I was wondering if we could have each member that provided revisions just to give a small summary. I'm wondering if Member Schaefer and Member Vasquez be willing to do that.
Certainly, we can accommodate that. I think Mr. Schaefer's items come up first in the memo. Mr. Schaefer, did you wish to detail the changes that you requested?
Well, I'm in favor of those. I don't know what you're asking me.
So if you, Member Gaines, if you would prefer, I can point to where the changes are, and I'm happy to read the changes that have been incorporated.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
If that helps.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
So in looking at the governance policy, I believe it's on page 14, if you happen to have a copy in front of you. In the 3rd paragraph, we've added the following statement. The chair may allow members the opportunity to make opening remarks limited to 3 minutes each. Additional comments may be made as closing remarks, time permitting. Opening remarks by members shall have some relation to the district of that member. The state controller or their deputy may present suitable statewide related issues for comment.
Okay, and those changes, is that coming from Member Schaefer?
Correct.
Okay.
So he requested those changes. I know it was a while ago. At the December 12th board meeting, he presented the changes he wished to incorporate into the governance policy. And then if you look at the board minutes from December 12th, the members agreed at that time via consensus to incorporate those in practice, and we're adding them in now since there have been other additional changes that are being made, and that was to save costs at the time.
Okay. Excellent. And then the second one is
The second one
Member
was
Vasquez's.
presented by Member Vasquez at last month's board meeting, and those are being proposed in a new paragraph. Let me turn to that. So that would be what appears to be page 13. I'm not sure how that would actually lay out in the publication, but it's provided as an attachment. I can read it if you'd like, but it was presented last month as well. And it's the board resolution policy.
I'd appreciate you read it.
Okay. Board resolution policy. A resolution is an expression of the sentiments, opinions, or intentions of the board as an elected body and is used to express the opinion of the board or to reflect action taken or action intended to be taken. Such a resolution constitutes a formal position by the members of the board on a particular issue or in response to a specific concern or matter. Any board member, or in matters concerning employees, the executive director, may propose a resolution for consideration by the board at a noticed meeting. All resolutions must be consistent with the constitutional and statutory duties and powers of the board and should include a recital of existing facts and circumstances setting forth the findings of the board by which the resolution may be interpreted by the public. A non-exclusive list of examples of resolution topics is the delegation of some of the board's powers to the executive director, honoring or commending officials, agency staff, or other individuals upon the receipt of an award or announcement of retirement, etc. Memorializing concerns or sympathy upon the passing of certain officials or employees, affirming the board's sentiments, support, or assistance to officials, other agencies, local governments, or communities impacted by disasters, loss, or other unforeseen circumstances. A draft of all proposed resolutions must be delivered to the executive director and the chief of board proceedings division for placement on the meeting agenda, subject to the chair's approval of the agenda item. The board may vote to adopt, deny, or modify the proposed resolution, and final action is undertaken by a majority vote.
Okay, that's great, thank you. That sounds fine, and I just want to clarify that as individual members, we have the authority to do this just as an individual. We're just clarifying what we can do as a board.
So I would turn to Member
correct?
Vasquez to clarify on
Yeah,
that point.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine.
I favor, a 3-minute limit on, because we're very busy. If somebody wants to talk for 10 minutes, most of us are going to get up and leave. Also, nobody on staff is going to say, member, you're violating this or that. They're just going to sit there and let us violate it. It's nice that we know what we're supposed to do, but I'm not really anxious to document all the various things unless you need it for guidance, and I would support it. And I think the most important thing is that we just use common sense when we start speaking. That's why I try to keep things to a few minutes, and my colleagues do too.
That's great.
Thank you so much. I would note that I believe staff might come up and let you know if any violations are being made. But what I will say from your remarks is
You have
that
a little red flag you can wave.
I think you and I know that I come up here a lot, right?
Yeah.
So what I will say is that if you would like to change the limited to 3 minutes each to a recommendation, we can certainly make that change now if that works for you.
Yes.
So instead, it would say, the chair may allow members the opportunity to make opening remarks. It's recommended that the remarks are to 3 minutes each.
When I came here, we had some staff reports that would run almost an hour. Now they tend to run
Sure,
15
this
to
is
30
not,
minutes, and they're
this
much
does
better.
not,
I know this does not affect staff.
correct. This is the board members' governance policy, and you requested that these be incorporated into your policy, but they do not apply to staff reports.
I know that.
Okay,
It's just that I find the 15-minute presentations from staff to be much better than the 30-minute presentations usually.
Sure, yeah, we understand that request, sir. So would you like me to say that it's recommended that it be 3 minutes, or are you fine with the way that it is? And that would be extended to all the members at this time.
I have no druthers there.
If we could clarify, limited to 3 minutes, not that we're suggesting that everyone speak for 3 minutes, and
That is what it currently says, limited to
Okay.
3 minutes each.
Maybe use the word recommended?
well, I don't want to say recommended to be 3 minutes each, but recommended to be limited to 3 minutes. I
No
think
more
is-
than 3 minutes?
We don't have to speak. I mean, it's optional.
No,
I waived my 3 minutes today.
yes.
Okay, okay, I think staff has got the gist of it.
Well, I want to be clear, some people would like it to say limited to 3 minutes each, and some people want something different, and so I would like just some clear direction.
How about if we say recommended to be limited to 3 minutes? Does that suffice? Okay.
That works.
And we won't have any forced utterances.
Okay. If there are no other questions,
No, that's great.
Any other questions for Ms. Timovitz? If not, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the item?
I'll move to approve it. I just had one quick question on,
Sure.
and I'm assuming you, on technical changes, that's all also included, right? Raise, where it's asking to raise it to 630 for the period beginning January 1, 2025? And ending in 26?
correct.
Okay.
So if you were to take this all in one motion, you certainly can, and it would incorporate those changes.
That's what I was proposing. We'd just do it all in one?
Yes, that would be great. Mr. Emron?
I had one question, Mr. Vasquez. Are we going to track these resolutions as we pass them? For example, is there anywhere on the website I can go and be like, hey, we passed a resolution at the December board meeting, and I can get a copy of it, for example, and it's signed by each member?
So all of the actions taken at our meetings are put into the minutes. Those are available publicly. Whether that contains a signed copy of the resolution, I'm not sure.
Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. Mr. Emron, Deputy Controller Emron, when a member has a desire to have a board-adopted resolution, it would be part of our public agenda notice. So that's the only, and it would be noted then. And then if the board votes to accept it, it will show in our minutes that the board approved the resolution. However, we will not have a special database of resolutions. So let's say next year the board issues 10 resolutions for whatever reason, those, we won't be holding on to them. The purpose of a resolution is to give it to someone. So we won't keep them.
Madam Executive Director,
And my last question, Member Schaefer, if I may, through the chair as well. And it's up to the board staff to write the resolution and present it to the agency and the members to a final sign-off, correct?
It's up to the member who wants the resolution to write the resolution and present it as an agenda item. Board staff rewrite resolutions mainly when it comes to an employee retirement.
Understood, thank you.
Okay.
I'm reading
Mr. Schaefer?
your December 4th letter here. That's what we're reading under technical changes. It says that the limit has been raised to 630 for receipt of travel payments by board members. I receive a lot more than that in travel payments because you got to bring me up here every month from San Diego, and that costs probably a couple $100 every month. That's not included?
That's separate, sir. This is gift and travel restrictions, limitations. The Political Reform Act imposes a limit and other restrictions on gifts and receipts of travel payments by a board member. That does not mean when you come here for a board meeting, you are using taxpayer funds, absolutely, but it's a board expense. It's different. This is talking about someone cannot give you a gift that exceeds $631.
I just didn't want to be told I have to come by bus.
No.
Okay.
As long as you submit a timely travel expense claim, you're okay.
Okay, other questions? Okay, if not, we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Vasquez. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Schaefer, and we have no written communications on this item and no speaker cards from the auditorium. So we'll go to our AT&T moderator. Moderator, if you would please let us know if there's anyone who wishes to make a comment on this item.
Thank you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, on the phone lines, if you wish to make a public comment, please press 1 followed by 0. 1 followed by 0. Madam Chair, nobody is queuing up.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Keddy, if you would please call the roll on the motion to approve by Mr. Vasquez, seconded by Mr. Schaefer.
Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines,
Aye?
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Thank you, members. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And we'll go on now to item 10, which is board member matters, the report on the informational hearing on understanding and exploring options for incentivizing California's hydrogen hub project. And Mr. Vasquez is presenting this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, thank you for your interest and your robust participation during the informational hearing on exploring the options for incentivizing California Hydrogen Hub project. I was very pleased with the knowledge and commitment of all the speakers. The governor's senior advisor for clean infrastructure and mobility for GoBiz, and the government's liaison for ARCHES, Mr. Tyson Eckerly, presented an excellent overview of this emerging industry and encouraged our continued interest in the partnership with GoBiz and the California Department of Energy. We are privileged to have input from 2 members of the Senate Select Committee on Hydrogen Energy, the chair, Senator Bob Archuleta, and Senator Ben Allen, both on whom, especially Senator Archuleta, who wants to partner with us coming in this year, 2025, on some possible incentives and legislation that he'll be introducing here in the near future. I also wanted to thank Mr. Young for your excellent overview of the property tax assessment issues and the challenges that are possibly associated with the industry. And many thanks to each and every of the speakers who presented, especially those from the California ports, those representing various highly significant aspects of the industry, as well as the California Hydrogen Coalition and the assessor, one of our assessors that showed up, Claude Parrish. Although minutes and the report are not required for an informational hearing, I submitted them to you for discussion and approval for several reasons. One, I want to have an official summary documenting at least the highlights of the input we received so that we can in the future boards record this. Number 2, I'd like to send them to the speakers and their respective organizations and constituencies for their records for future contacts. And thirdly, I'd like the public to understand the results of the hearing, the opportunities, the challenges, and the hydrogen energy development presents, and the type of roles that the BoE and the county assessors will assume as it moves forward. After your comments and input, I would like to move for the adoption of this. So with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Vasquez? Mr. Emron.
I want to thank Mr. Vasquez. I want to thank members of his team for bringing this report together. I thought It catches a lot of the discussions that we had, and I know there was a lot of hard work being put into this project here. It's exciting times to think about hydrogen hubs, and I do believe the BoE has an important role to play. And I hope that resources and time permitting, we can take up Senator Archuleta's request and offer to come down to Southern California to check out some of the very fun and innovative hydrogen hub projects that's taking place in Los Angeles as these projects spread across the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments?
If I could, yeah, it'd be great, yeah.
Mr. Gaines?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I want to thank Member Vasquez. I thought that was a great presentation. It's very interesting, and it's always good to look at alternatives and other options in terms of our energy. And I thought that, I was just looking through your notes here, but Jackie Birdsall from Toyota was, I just found that fascinating because they provided a pathway for completely green production of hydrogen, right? And then also had the car that I guess you could lease here in California. I don't know if you, can you still, I think they're still operating, right? So it kind of shows a pathway, but obviously there's some challenges ahead in terms of the cost and how you can implement it at different levels for like truckers and things like that. They haven't quite figured that out in terms of getting something affordable, but I thought it was just helpful for this board to have an understanding of where the technology is and where it's headed. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Schaefer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry to miss this part of last week's hearing. I wasn't here the second day, but I've considered the minutes on it, and I think one of our biggest issues is whether the Trump administration embraces or shies away from hydrogen, and so we have to keep a close watch on Washington in going forward. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Vasquez?
Thank you. Thank you, members, for your participation and your willingness to move this thing forward. I had the opportunity, actually, after our meeting, our hearing with the Institute at the Latino Caucus, we met just last week in Anaheim, and Senator Archuleta, he was real impressed by the comments and the willingness from the board to weigh in on possible legislation he's moving forward. He's real excited about coming out with some ideas. He's going to share with me, hopefully soon, what he's thinking about it, and I will bring it back to the board and see if there's any way we can get the whole board to weigh in support of possible legislation to try to expedite this as soon as possible. Appreciate it.
Through the chair, if I could.
Mr. Gaines?
Would part of that be some sort of tax exemption or something of that nature that would help them move forward on the technology?
What I shared with him, and as I said, and we had several speakers come before us, I want us to learn from some of the mistakes that came up in the 70s with the electric vehicle, right? That I think kind of held back expediting and trying to mainstream this thing as soon as possible. I think one of the advantages you have with with hydrogen is that I understand that the gas stations can be repurposed to flow out hydrogen, as opposed to when we were doing electric vehicles in the 70s, you needed solar panels, right? Which was a whole nother operation. So I'm kind of hoping that as they move forward and the engineers start looking at this, as they start rolling it out, that they could just basically take over service stations that exist, because they're, those are up and running throughout the state. One of the problems you have with electric vehicles is you literally have to set up these charging stations. Right. I mean, we've done quite a bit in Santa Monica, but I don't see too many cities up and down the state doing it. Whereas here, you're just a matter of repurposing an existing gas station.
Right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Emron?
There's been talks about a $7,000 EV credit for vehicles to be produced here in California, and to cover just, let's say the federal government doesn't want to continue covering that. And I wonder if hydrogen hub cars would be also included in that tax credit. And it's something we can continuously talk to the senator about, but I do believe it falls under that clean air type credit if we were to extend it, correct? And not just focusing so much solely on electric. And that's what I've learned from that presentation last month too. There's multiple ways to approach clean energy as we move away from fossil fuels.
Okay. Mr. Vasquez, did you wish to make a motion?
If I could, I'd love to move the minutes if there's no objection, and so we could officially get this out to all the participants and start moving this thing.
So, the second.
Minutes and report.
Minutes and report.
Okay. Moved by Mr. Vasquez, seconded by Mr. Schaefer. We do not have any written comments, nor any speaker cards from the auditorium, so we'll go to our AT&T moderator. Moderator, if you would please let us know if there's anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding item 10.
Thank you. To initiate public comment on item 10, please press 1 followed by 0. 1 followed by 0. And Madam Chair, nobody is queuing up.
Thank you. So, members, there's a motion by Mr. Vasquez to adopt the minutes and report of the hearing on hydrogen hubs, seconded by Mr. Schaefer. And Mr. Keddy, if you would please call the roll.
Chair Lieber.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines. Member Vasquez.
Aye.
Member Schaefer.
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Okay, members, the motion carries unanimously. And let's see, it's not quite time to take our afternoon break, not even close. So we'll keep going with item 11, which is adoption of the November 19th, 20th, 2024 board meeting minutes. And are there any comments or questions on this item?
Motion to approve.
Okay, move to approve by Mr. Gaines,
I would second.
seconded by Mr. excuse me. I'm sorry, Mr. Schaefer.
And with a comment that I was not present on day 2.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. We have no written comments nor comment cards, and so we'll go to the AT&T moderator. Moderator, is there anyone who is holding on the line to make comments on item 11?
If you would like to make public comment for item 11, please press 1 followed by 0. And nobody is queuing up, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to the board. And I have realized that I was supposed to take 11 through 14 in one motion, but we'll just take a vote on item 11 and then keep going with the others as a group. Apologies about that. So we have a motion to approve from Mr. Gaines, seconded by Mr. Schaefer. And Mr. Keddy, if you would please call the roll.
Chair Lieber.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines.
Aye.
Member Vasquez.
Aye.
Member Schaefer.
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Members, the motion passes unanimously. Now, we will take the balance of the consent agenda as one item, and this is items 12, 13, and 14. These are all relevant to the assessor's handbook sections 531, 531A, 534, and 581. And we do not have a presentation on these, but we've been provided with the text for the changes. Are there any questions or discussion about them?
Motion to approve. Or second.
Mr. Schaefer moves approval
Ted
of
sec-
the changes, and seconded by Mr. Gaines. And we do not have written communications on this, nor any speaker cards. And so we'll go to our AT&T moderator. Moderator, do we have anyone who's holding on the line, hoping to make a comment about items 12, 13, and 14?
To make public comment on items 12, 13, and 14, please press 1 followed by 0. 1 followed by 0. And nobody is queuing up, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to the board. And Mr. Ketty, if you would please call the roll.
Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines,
Aye?
Member Vasquez.
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye?
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Thank you, members. Consent agenda items 12 through 14 passed unanimously. And we'll go to item 15, the Executive Director's Report. Ms. Stowers.
Good afternoon, Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. First, I would like to say congratulations to Vice Chair Gaines, incoming chair. And thank you, Chair Lieber. It's been a great time working with you, and you're going to be the vice chair. So just a little role reversal
thing.
here. We will be reaching out to your team, Vice Chair Gaines, to go over some of our procedures.
All right, thank you.
All righty. My report overall will be brief. First, I would like to also extend my appreciation and gratitude to the outgoing California Assessors President and Sacramento Assessor, the Honorable Christina Nguyen, for her participation in 2024, her partnership, I should say, as many of our accomplishments were achieved through great collaboration with the CAA. Moving into the new year, I'm looking forward to working with the Honorable Jeff Prang, Los Angeles County Assessor, the incoming CAA President for 2025. Members, as a bit of a teaser, as part of my Executive Director report for next month meeting, I will be highlighting the agency's accomplishments during 2024. These accomplishments were achieved based on you guys' leadership, so thank you very much. Finally, members, I would like to wish you and all of the BoE family a very happy and safe and healthy holiday season. That concludes my remarks. My executive management team will provide updates on projects and operational priorities in their respective areas. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you, Ms. Stowers. Although I was not able to attend your 2024, I guess, Employees Appreciation Day, I understand, took place on December the 10th.
Yes.
I'm very thankful, and I just wanted to put it out there for folks, especially the staff, you know. And I just wanted to mention a couple things real quick. You know, your commitment, especially for the staff, and staying with us through this thick and thin period, especially over these years as we were rebuilding the BoE. And just wanted to say my thank you and the skill sets. You know, Ms. Renata, you know, you've done a great job as you're filling in the gaps of all the folks that we needed. You know, I remember when we first started, you know, we had so many vacancies. And I know our Vice Chair Gaines was always asking, you know, what's the number now? Where are we up to? What are we up to? And now we're hit capacity. And then now just looking forward, just maintaining the positive attitude that exists and looking forward as we look at this next two-year cycle that's coming up on the legislative side, see what we can do to hopefully expand not only staff, but I'm thinking just authority for the board. I'm looking forward to working with the team here. Appreciate all the work that staff has done up to this point.
Thank you.
Just want to acknowledge them.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from Ms. Stowers? Mr. Schaefer?
I'd just like to comment that you've gone through a very important year, moving our offices from downtown out here and dealing with a lot of new situations. I just want to commend you for all that and doing it well.
Thank you very much, sir. Actually, our office is still at Sacramento. We just have our meetings here. This is not our permanent spot. We're guests. But it's a lovely facility.
Mr. Gaines?
Member Schaefer, I would agree that this has turned out to be a nice facility to meet at. And it's always a little adjustment with change and all, but it's an impressive campus that they've built here, and I'm grateful we have the opportunity to
I miss
have our meetings here.
I miss the Dronenberg room.
Oh, that's right. We might have to, well, I don't know. Can we name it this room for our meetings? Maybe we could do that. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you for the year and just a job well done on all fronts. And I'm very excited about the BoE and the direction we're heading in and what lies ahead in the future. So thank you, Executive Director Stowers.
Thank you, sir.
And staff, the whole team.
Yes. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. And we'll go on to item 16, Operational Priorities Report by Ms. Renati, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Lieber and honorable members. I am Lisa Renati, Chief Deputy Director. And today I'll report on some of the agency's operational priorities in furtherance of our strategic plan. And the first one is our workforce capacity. It's been a few months since I gave an update on our recruitments, and we have successfully filled 7 positions. 1 is a transfer, 5 are brand new to state service, 1 is a promotion. And due to our consistent proactive hiring activities by all of our managers and supervisors, our agency's vacancy rate is just under 8%. So our managers continue to focus on hiring and training and mentoring new staff, also succession planning activities, making sure that we have the next generation of property tax experts. And the next and last item is mandated training. Last month, Executive Stowers mentioned that Government Code 11019.81, the Government to Government Consultation Act, established tribal consultation training requirements to support the executive branch's commitment to consult with Native American tribes. The mandated annual training explores practical strategies for nurturing relationships based on respect, reciprocity, accountability, and also providing an understanding of the legal frameworks guiding consultations. So all board member staff, and all executive leaders, and also you, Mr. Emron, along with Controller Cohen, must complete this self-paced online training by Tuesday, December 31st, 2024. It's right around the corner. It's a self-paced training. Ms. Stowers has recently sent another reminder email to all of you and your chief deputies with how to get to that training, and hopefully you'll finish that by December 31st. This concludes my report. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Mr. Gaines?
Comment, wanted to, again, thank you for all your efforts, and that vacancy rate below 8%, I've never heard of that, because I
No.
think the average isn't the average around 14 or 11?
10
or?
is low, 14 is
okay.
pretty normal, so
Okay.
we're doing really well.
So that's encouraging, and we have a promotion within the BoE, and then 5 new folks, and then a transfer from one agency to another, I
Yes,
guess. Yeah,
yes.
very encouraging. Thank you, and your team for all your work.
Great. Any other comments or questions for Ms. Renati? Mr. Vasquez?
Just real quick, and you might have mentioned it in your remarks, you touched on the vacancy for 2025. What does it look like? Are we expecting like more retirements? Do we know?
You know, I can't predict the future, but based on past experience, we had the last wave of retirements in 2018. I would expect in the next few years to have another wave of retirements, which is why we've been so focused on succession planning activities and also our hiring activities to ensure that we're not caught in a lurch again, like when you came in forward and had a lot of vacant positions. So we're trying to plan for that.
And what are we hearing in terms of the state budget, deficits? I know the governor had this little special meeting here a couple weeks ago.
We haven't heard anything new. I think the state's financial outlook is still not as it was in the past. So we are anticipating, the cuts that we made earlier this year are final, where we have not heard if additional cuts will be needed. We'll probably find out around January where we'll be there.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Schaefer?
Since we have a new administration in Washington who threatens to send home all of our naturalized citizens, do we have a significant number of naturalized citizens on our payroll that might be subject to threats?
I don't believe so, no. We should be fine.
I mean, this is people from Canada, people from Russia, not just Mexicans. They're all subject to Trump.
It's something to consider, but I don't believe it's going to be an issue for us, no.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other comments or questions, thank you so much. And we'll keep on moving now to item 17, which is Taxpayer Rights Advocate's Office Report, presented by Ms. Thompson. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Lieber and honorable board members. For the record, I am Lisa Thompson, the Chief of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office. Sorry. I will provide you with an update of the activities of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office to keep you informed. The first item concerns statistics on the number of completed cases completed by our office in the prior month. And last month, we completed 37 cases. 9 were in Vice Chair Gaines' district, District 1. 13 were in Chair Lieber's district, District 2. 9 were in Board Member Vasquez's district, District 3. And 6 were in Board Member Schaefer's district, District 4. 7 of those were in the administrative category, while 30 were in the valuation category. The memo that's attached to the public agenda notice does identify the topics within those categories. However, the topic with the highest number, sorry. Some people might have liked that. So anyway, the number in the valuation category of the topics with the highest number of case counts were actual enrollment of values with 8 completed, followed closely by exclusions from reassessment with 7 completed cases. And of the 7 exclusion cases, 5 were for transfers between parents and children, and 2 pertain to base year value transfers for seniors. The second item that I would like to update you about is work that was completed by the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office in the area of taxpayer education. This month, a new information sheet was completed addressing reporting requirements when the death of a real property owner occurs and dies, and this information sheet discusses the reporting requirements for filing a Form BoE 502D, change in ownership statement, death of a real property owner, with an assessor's office when a property owner dies, and also notifying an assessor's office of any mailing address changes. It also identifies exclusions from reassessment that are available for children or grandchildren inheriting certain property from their parents or grandparents, and also for an exclusion for a surviving co-tenant inheriting the co-tenant's share of the home to avoid it being reassessed at market value. Additionally, it discusses reporting requirements for a change in ownership statement for a legal entity to report changes in control and ownership of legal entities that is reported to our agency through the LEOP program. And that happens when essentially the death of a person, in addition to holding real property, they hold interests in a legal entity such as corporate voting stock. This concludes my update, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, questions, Mr. Vasquez?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Thompson. As I'm looking at this report, I think it's great, and I'm just wondering, because it's so detailed, it's some good information here, if maybe down the road, if there's a possibility of putting it in some kind of a diagram form. I was just thinking when we had the hearing on the hydrogen, for many of us that are not into the whole science of it, these diagrams that some of the presenters had kind of helped you kind of walk through this process. And one of the things I notice that constantly comes up, like when I've gone to some of these resource fairs in my district, it's the number one issue, especially this Prop 19 in which you mentioned in terms of the transfer of ownership on a death. And unless somebody's actually going through it, a lot of times the terminology that we're using and the verbiage we're using just kind of flies over their head. They really don't understand it. And I'm wondering, but when you see it if it's in a diagram form, it kind of walks you through it. It's a little bit easier to follow and understand it. And I don't know if that's something that anybody's thought of or if it's even possible, feasible.
Yeah, I think so. The information sheets, they are written kind of toward designed for a taxpayer, so they're non-technical terms, but they direct the reader to resources, and so many of those resources may also have charts that are easier for them to see. So like on Prop 19, you've seen the tables on the agency's websites about that, where there's different tables for the intergenerational transfer provisions versus the base year value transfer provisions, and within each of those also for the seniors versus disabled persons. So they have that, and those also, the LTAs also kind of walk them through like calculations on, say, what the new base year value would be with the taxable transfer. So this more of our information sheets are designed just kind of to notify taxpayers of certain things, exemptions or exclusions that might be available to them, to help them with property tax savings, and then kind of direct them to areas where they can find more information, and then also direct them to, say, a claim form that they need to actually file with the assessor's office in order to receive such exclusions. So,
Just thought I'd throw it out there. Thanks.
thank you.
Okay, other questions? Mr. Gaines?
Yeah, I really like Tony's idea of any way to try to simplify it. I think the diagram that I remember at your hydrogen informational hearing was on the Toyota one.
Right.
And they showed how they're manufacturing and then the facilities where you could put it into the tank. But so do you think that something of that nature would be helpful? I don't know if Peter Kim might be able to help us in that capacity, given that he's got talent in working on the website and in PR.
Got Ms. Stowers approaching.
Good afternoon, Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. I appreciate you guys' comments about some type of a diagram or a flow chart. We worked really hard on this one. We spent a great
It's
deal of
beautiful.
time to make it as simple
Yeah,
as
no, I like it.
possible. And I do not think we could break it down any further without losing how the law actually works.
Okay. Okay, is there, could you incorporate the same verbiage in a diagram form?
I think, can I answer?
Go right ahead.
So I think that a diagram is a good idea for certain things. And for an upcoming information sheet, I do see that diagram, being useful. And that is going to be an information sheet addressing exemptions available for nonprofit organizations. So I do think that we can incorporate an information sheet in that regard, particularly when we talk about the welfare exemption, because we have the co-administration of that with the board performing one function on the organizational side and property use on county assessor's side. So I do like that idea and I appreciate it. So I think that we can probably incorporate in there. It would fit. I don't think it would fit in this. There's so many different, the ultimate requirement for something to happen when the death of a real property owner occurs is for them to file a change in ownership statement, a specific change in ownership statement within 150 days of the date of death. And that is a requirement, but we added more things because this is important. Because if somebody has a situation where their parent dies, it's an emotional time. So this kind of has a one-stop shop where we're hoping to inform them here is like, okay, you have to do this, yes, but here's also a reminder is you have 1 year from that date of death to move into that property of your parents if you intend to live there, and to file this form, the homeowners and that. So that's kind of how we incorporated it. So we could have simply just talked about, yeah, you have to do the change in ownership statement, but we want to get them to that next step of thinking about other things, like, do I want to live in the property that my mom or my dad lived in? And if you do that, then you can realize very significant property tax savings, but you have to do certain steps and make that decision in a pretty short period of time after they die, or you'll lose it, 1 year.
That's great. I love what you've put together here. Is this, okay, this is available on the website too, isn't it?
This is available on the Taxpayer Rights Advocate page
Yes.
on the information sheet. So this
Okay.
is, I think, the 13th of it. An LTA will be coming out, but I think this is
that's
the
great.
13 information sheet. Yeah.
So the LTA, hopefully that encourages, because it'd be great if we could get the county assessors to put this on their websites also. Just disseminate that.
Yeah, many
that info.
counties link to our website, and I do continually keep the assessors informed on the information sheets that we issue. I was at their last meeting. They were aware of these upcoming information sheets. The welfare exemption on nonprofit organizations actually will be the other one that they'll be looking for pretty soon. So yeah, they are aware of it, and
How
and
about
we'll
some
also
of
talk
the
about it.
nonprofit groups out there that might be able to disseminate it? I'm thinking Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, but I'm sure there's many others where people might be relying on them for, like, tax-related questions.
Yeah, and we'll talk with Pete. So our communications officer, Mr. Kim, he disseminates this kind of information to our advisory council, the executive director's advisory council, as well as other stakeholders that we have. So we'll be publicizing this. It would
So there's a
just was posted.
stakeholders list that we could get it out to. Yeah, okay, that's great, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? I would just comment that I think that this is especially valuable in that there are other guides to the frequently asked questions, et cetera, et cetera. And some of the counties, I think LA County in particular, has more graphically based document. But when people really need to know the timeframes and the absolute deadlines for things, and that when it's a one-way gate where someone must take an action within a certain specified period of time. And I've had constituents ask questions about, do we need to keep continuing to pay the property taxes? Why has X or Y changed on us? And so I think that this is very valuable. And in addition to having it on the TRA page, I'd love to have staff consider if it could also go on the Prop 19 information page. Because individuals may be coming in through either pathway to get to it. And I just think that this has so much valuable information that's step by step, grandchildren, children, et cetera. And these are huge, huge financial stakes for folks that, they aren't thinking about until they really need this information. So I appreciate getting all the substance that's in here. So thank you very much for that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I think, Mr. Gaines.
Yeah, like our newsletters, we could include this in our newsletters that are going out to constituents, so thank you.
Absolutely, and also posting a link to individuals. We're all in communication with a lot of elected officials and through our social media. And it may, trigger a thought for someone to say, the person that I work with is going through this and needs this right now. So thank you for that. And it's now 2:35, and we're going to go on our afternoon break and come back at 2:45. Property Tax Deputy Director's report, and this will be presented by Mr. Young.
Good afternoon, Chair Lieber, honorable members of the board. For the record, my name is David Young, Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. So for you today, I have my usual 3 reports. They're the letters to assessors and the appraisal training and certification by Ms. Keach, the chief of that unit, of that division, and then followed by Mr. Jack McCool, chief of the SAPD. He will give you an update as to what's happening there in SAPD in the State Assessed Properties Division. But before I turn over to them to give you their presentation, I just wanted to give you just a little bit of context. We've talked much about our recruitment and our vacancy rate, and it's down at a pretty historic low. First of all, I wanted to recognize the hard work that our team has been putting in order to do this. The actual recruitment process is a long process for civil service. It takes a lot to actually get somebody in, and with every filling of every vacancy, if it's an internal candidate, there are backfills to be had. So there's a lot of work involved. So first of all, I wanted to recognize the team for their concerted hard work on this and getting that number down. And number 2, I wanted to give you some actual context as to who we're being able to get in this last year of hires. So our ideal candidates have always been, they have appraisal experience and they have assessment experience. And what we've done in the past is that we've taken folks with either one or neither, and we've invested heavily in them, and we've done so for many, many years. We've mentored, we've trained, we've brought them along, and that has paid out in spades. But in this last year, there has been an actual turn in who we're actually targeting and who we're actually getting in as new hires. And by and far, they have appraisal experience. So they're already starting a little bit above ground floor. And we've actually had quite a few as of late that have come in with assessment experience. So not only have they appraised property and valued property, but they've done so for property tax purposes. So that is a tremendous help with the synergy of us investing in our own folks and the infusion of new and experienced and talented folks. I think it's going to be a good year next year, 2025. So with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Keach for the first 2 of the reports, and then after that will be Mr. McCool.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Lieber and honorable board members. I'm Lauren Keach, Chief of the County Assessed Properties Division. Today, I will provide you with a brief report on letters to assessors. Attached to this month's agenda is a memo on letters to assessors, which provides a list of the LTAs that have been issued since the last board meeting. In addition, the memo provides a link to the BoE's website where a list of all LTAs can be found that have been issued to date. As of the date of the attached memo, BoE has issued a total of 43 LTAs for the calendar year 2024. And since the last board meeting, 4 of those LTAs had been issued, and they are summarized as follows. An LTA to announce the Mariposa County Assessment Practices Survey results, an LTA to announce the 2025 Timberland Production Zone values, an LTA to announce the initiation of a project to amend Property Tax Rule 283 permanent certification, and an LTA to announce the 2025-26 income levels for the welfare exemption. This concludes my report on letters to assessors. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Vasquez?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Keach. Just a real quick one. Does Rule 283 have any provisions to track or maintain any matrix, in terms of the program, how it's doing?
Rule 283 pertains to permanent certification for appraisers. So I'm not sure exactly about your question, but as far as the project that we're initiating and the amendments that we're making, it's to add appraisers licensed with the Bureau of Real Estate and appraisers licensed or real estate agents in other states or equivalent licensees. So that is the purpose of this project and what we're adding in addition to qualifications for our permanent certification. So if that doesn't answer your question, I can look into that further.
If you get a chance, I was just wondering if there was a possibility, or if it made sense at some point, do some kind of matrix. I was just thinking of ways to look at what's working and what's not in terms of making any future changes down the road, that's all.
Okay, so for the interested parties process, we do invite comments to a certain date, and those are input into a matrix. So we would consider all feedback. As for this particular rule and the interested parties, we only received one comment, so it will not involve a matrix. But had we received more, then we would go through the matrix process and reviewing all comments and feedback.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question.
Other questions, Mr. Gaines?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Keach. I was just curious about Mariposa. So that was a survey done of the county?
To my knowledge, yes. It was a supplemental survey, I believe.
Oh, okay. And do we, on those surveys, we usually get, don't we get a kind of a quick overview in terms of the status of that survey?
So
they have to fall in compliance, don't they? Is there, like your...
Yes, okay, I see Dave approaching.
Yes, we typically do give you a quarterly update where we go through all, at the end of each quarter, we report out all the surveys that were completed in that quarter, and we give you basically, yes, a rundown as to what was and what our major findings were.
So that's forthcoming?
It's forthcoming.
Yeah,
And this is a supplemental, basically, it's a follow-up on prior recommendations.
It is, okay,
Yes.
good.
Okay,
And all is well on that?
all is well,
Yeah, good, thank you.
of course.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Mr. Gates.
Other questions? Mr. Schaefer, did you have one?
This is as to the letters to the assessor this past week. There was one that went back to historic data for the last 10 years or so. I am not sure which one it was, but I get them all independently. I couldn't understand why we were going back to 2015 to 2024 in a 2 or 3 page letter to the assessor. I wondered if you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, sorry.
It's a multi-page letter, and on page 2, it went on back into the last 10 years.
Okay, if I recall, it's probably our letter that deals with the timber zone, production zone letter. What that LTA does is that probably about 3-4 decades ago, standing timber was assessed as is. They bifurcated that assessment. There's a yield tax component, so when you cut down the timber, that's when it's taxed. The land on which the timber stands on is taxed under the timber production zone, and it's a separate calculation. It's not fair market value per se, but it is a restricted valuation, and that dollar per acre is basically a rolling total of average of like 3 or 4 or 5 years. So some of the historical data you see in there may show you what they were in the prior years.
So we had reason to go back 10 years.
Yeah, we have reasons, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on that one? Ms. Keach?
Okay, thank you. I will now provide a brief report on the BOE's appraisal training and certification program. For the 2024-25 fiscal year, BOE staff has scheduled 31 classes and 2 workshops. In addition, 8 classes have been scheduled using instructors from county assessors' offices. Since the beginning of the fiscal year, the BoE has taught 13 classes. We continue to offer our existing online basic training courses available through American River College and California State University, Sacramento, as well as online courses and self-study training sessions that are available on the BoE's website. This concludes my report on training and certification. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions on training and certification? Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Yes, I'm looking at the letters to the assessors. You quote, these code sections provide that the BoE shall make surveys in specified counties to determine that the practices and procedures are all in conformity with the provisions of the law. I think that's very fine, but is there some policy that we do annually, 1/10 of the assessors, or I'm just wondering, how does that work in application? We know that between the two quotes, I agree with that, but I don't fully understand how it's being practiced.
Thank you. Looks like Dave would like to answer your question.
Yes, there is a provision in the government code. It's under 15.6. I think it's 16.626 and et al. Basically, right now, the way it's done is that there is a 5-year cycle in which we are to look at the counties. It's split into basically 3 categories. The top 10 counties in value are done once every 5 years, and they get a full survey and a full sample, a qualitative and a quantitative look at their assessment practices, and we actually take a look at their actual numbers to see how close they are. The second group is group in value from 11 to 20, and there once a year for those 5-year cycle, one is chosen to be looked at just for a sample, and one is chosen just for a survey. And then the very last group is 21 through 58. And out of that group, 3 are chosen to get the survey, and 2 are chosen to get the sample. So that's how it kind of is scheduled out, where we are to look at them on a 5-year cycle. Depending on where you fall in that 3 categories is how you get chosen. So
you're saying out of the bottom 40 or so, we pick a couple?
Yeah, pick a couple.
How is that picked? Do you just draw names out of a hat, or?
That's exactly it. I wish it was a little higher tech, but we basically draw names out of a hat. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that written anywhere?
It is. It's in 15. Yeah, it's in the government code 15643, I believe. And so there is provision for that. There is provision in law for it.
You might take a look at Election Code Section 13112. That's the Schaefer law that mandates random alphabeting in listing of candidates on ballots. That arose from a case I filed, and that spells out that Secretary of State shall put 26 letters in 26 capsules and mix them up.
Well, we're not that far off. We actually have a can, and we have the.
Well, I'm one of the pioneers on that, okay?
We have tokens 1 through 58, and so that's how we do it.
I thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we found out a lot so far.
Right. Thank you, then. This will conclude my report.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And now we'll have item on state assessed property presented by Mr. Jack McCool.
Thank you, and good afternoon again, Chair Lieber and honorable members. My name is Jack McCool, Chief of the State Assessed Property Division. I will provide information on status of ongoing work in our division. This month concludes SAPD's work on unitary appeals for this year. After the action taken by the board earlier today, 30 petitions will have come before the board for action during the 2024 appeal season. I would like to take a moment to thank our partners in the legal department for all of their hard work and collaboration during this year's appeals season. Additionally, I would like to thank the Board Proceeding Division's appeals team for their work that they have done to ensure that all the proper procedures were followed and that our appeal season went smoothly. And now that appeals work is complete, SAPD will be bringing completed property tax audits before the board in the early months of 2025. Staff spent the summer and fall months of 2024 conducting financial audits of state assessees. Some audits found no discrepancies or errors. As a result, those assessees have been notified that their audit is now closed, and they are thanked for their cooperation. Audits that do result in findings recommending a change in value must go before the board for consideration. Those assessees will receive a copy of their audit report and their audit findings, and they are given an additional opportunity to present information in response to the audit findings prior to any audit appearing on the board's agenda. Assessees will also receive notification when the board has taken action resulting in any change in value, and they will receive information on their appeal rights. Finally, SAPD staff are in the final stages of updating the annual property statement forms and instructions. This involves collaboration with the Forms and Publications Unit at CDTFA. The final electronic versions of the forms and instructions will be placed on our website and are made ADA accessible. Each assessee will be mailed a hard copy of their applicable forms and instructions this week, with the forms due on March 1st of next year. That concludes my monthly update for the State Assessed Properties Division, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions? Any questions? No, seeing none? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Young, did you have any closing comments for us? No. Thank you. Members will now take public comment on items 15 through 18. We do not have any written comments nor any comment cards coming from the auditorium. So let's go to the AT&T moderator. Moderator, if you would tell us if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding items 15 through 18 on the agenda.
And please press 1 then 0 at this time to make public comment. And we have no public comment in queue at this time.
Thank you. So we'll go on to item 19, the Legislative Research and Statistics Division Chief's Report presented by Mr. Angelo. And Mr. Angelo, you have a sub-item A and B also for us today.
Good afternoon, Chair Lieber and honorable members. Ted Angelo, Legislative Director and Chief of the Legislative Research and Statistics Division. So what I have before you today are two items, and I'm going to respectfully request that the board move to adopt and support the following legislative proposals for the 2025 legislative session. So if it pleases the board, you could make a motion after the first one and then do a separate under the second. So the first item on the agenda, let's see here, is to amend Business and Professions Code Section 23671 to require electronic filing of beer vendor reports, which is consistent with corresponding electronic filing requirements in the Revenue Tax Code for alcoholic beverage licensees, common and private carriers, and other persons. So this is a follow-up to the two sponsored proposals this year, SB 1527. Actually, it was in SB 1528, and that proposal did not make a change to the Business and Professions Code. And under the Business and Professions Code, the authority to require a beer vendor report under the Alcoholic Beverage Tax Program resides in the Business and Professions Code. while the procedural requirements for filing the reports and schedules reside in the various rev and tax code sections, including 32-452 that were changed in SB 1528 from earlier this year that was signed into law. So this is a technical cleanup to make reference to the electronic authority and requirements in the Business and Professions Code as well as the rev and tax code. And I respectfully request that you move to support this proposal, which would be going into either a committee bill or a standalone bill, depending on whether or not it's controversial to any consultants.
Okay, are there any comments or questions on the first proposal, 19A, Proposal 1? Mr. Schaefer?
Yes. I'd like to ask you if there's any old school tavern owners that may not understand at all e-filing of anything. Some places do allow, like the courts say, if you're a lawyer, you got to e-file. If you're a layman, we'll let you mail it in.
Right. I don't have Laurel, who handles our alcoholic beverage tax program, as well as the insurance tax program, in terms of the in and out specifics of the programs, is not here today to speak to that.
Yeah.
But I do know that there was capability, and I do know that there weren't any complaints from CDTFA for electronic filing before. And we kind of covered that at an earlier board meeting. I think that question had arisen. But I do believe you can still hand deliver certain things and mail certain things. There was a requirement in 1528 that required schedules to go along with another electronic filing requirement. So long story short is I don't know the specific answer to what an old school alcoholic beverage tax individual that doesn't have computer capability to submit it, what they do. I know that there are options for them, and I haven't heard any complaints.
Sure, and it'd be nice if somebody would give them some counseling rather than just written demand of what they have to do.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Vasquez, did you have comments?
I did, but I think you just answered it. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So members, we're going to take a motion on this proposal first, and then we'll go on to the second proposal. So is there a motion to approve the legislative proposal detailed in item 19A?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Gaines moves, and Mr. Vasquez seconds. And we do not have any written comments, nor is there anyone in the auditorium who has indicated that they wish to make a public comment on this agenda item. So we'll go to the AT&T moderator. Moderator, if you'd please let us know if there's anyone on the phone who would like to make a public comment regarding Proposal A on agenda item 19.
Is that proposal 1 or
please press
proposal
1
8?
and 0. Please press 1 and 0 at this time. We have no public comment in queue at this time.
Okay, thank you. We'll bring it back to the board if there's no further discussion. We have a motion to approve item 1, item 19-1 or A, made by Mr. Gaines, seconded by Mr. Vasquez. Mr. Keddy, if you would please call the roll.
Yes. Chair Lieber?
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines?
Aye.
Member Vasquez?
Aye.
Member Schaefer?
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron?
Aye.
Okay, members, that motion passes unanimously, and we'll ask Mr. Angelo to please proceed with sub-item 2 or B on item 19.
Thank you, Chair Lieber and members. The second item is agenda item 19B, and this one is an issue of inconsistent deadlines for property tax assessment appeals, and it was discussed during the Board of Equalization's August 27th, 2024 Taxpayers' Bill of Rights hearing, and at the September 24th BoE board meeting. Taxpayer representatives asked for a review of the assessment appeal deadline issue, and Board Member Vasquez identified the issue as an agenda item for discussion at that time. So this is following up on that to synchronize what currently is a dual system where it could either be September 15th or November 30th, to synchronize them and make it more clear and consistent and just make them November 30th. So I can go into greater detail about the history of the paperwork that's involved. Just in certain circumstances, if a taxpayer does not receive a notice of assessment described in Revenue Tax Code Section 619 at least 15 calendar days prior to the deadline to file an application, they may file an application within 60 days. And if that is not done, then it gets extended. Right now, there's about 11 counties that don't accept, that don't have the September 15th deadline, not the November 30th. So this would simplify it and give the taxpayer more time without having to go through a special set of circumstances with receiving a letter if they hadn't received something regarding their appeal from that specific county. And again, I respectfully request that the board move to adopt and support this proposal as well for the 2025 legislative session.
Okay, are there questions or comments? Mr. Gaines.
Yeah, thank you for presenting this. And I'm just curious as to, do you know what counties are affected?
I have, let me see here.
Chances are they're in my district or Sally's.
Yes, but I can tell you the ones, it's going to make everything, those that don't have, the 11 counties, which I don't have unfortunately, I don't have the list. I had them earlier, but I don't have them listed here. But it's going to make it better for the taxpayer in those districts to have the November 30th deadline rather than have it earlier and have to jump through hoops to get that extension.
Oh, I see, okay.
So
all right, thank you.
It's not going to make
For clarifying
taxpayers
that.
have to go through anything earlier than
Yeah.
they would otherwise have to.
And I'd imagine the CAA is in support.
I would imagine they would be. I haven't had direct conversations with them. Do you know, Mr. Young? If they've.
CA has a meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
And so just as some of the legislative history on this was initially proposed by the board and sponsored by the board probably about 20 plus years ago.
Okay.
CAA was actually, they were in support of this change. It used to be all September 15th, and they moved it to basically November 30th.
Okay.
And what this does is that it makes it an even playing field for all taxpayers and not just the ones in that county.
They're equalized.
They're equalized, exactly. So the issue was that a lot of folks, when they get these notices of assessments, they either ignore them or they don't read them or they don't understand them, and they file them away. And then they get their tax bill. Their tax bills are mailed out November 1st. For those people that live in those 11 counties, their last day to file an appeal was September 15th, two months back. So by the time you get your tax bill, you're already too late to file. So this gives everybody at least, at the minimum, 30 days. Your tax bill gets mailed, you have 30 days to.
So they get more time.
They get more time.
Taxpayers' benefit, as you said.
Yes.
Deb. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's
And so
great.
nobody gets caught with a tax bill and their filing deadline.
I did get a text, actually someone's listening to us here. Alameda, Alpine, Inyo, Kings, Mono, Placer, San Francisco.
Right.
San Luis Obispo, Santa Clara, Sierra, and Ventura.
Yeah.
So that's good to know.
Yep.
Yeah, great, thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Others, Mr. Schaefer.
Yes. Recently, a couple of months ago, Mark Capri of CADA spoke eloquently about this issue, and this resolves it. I think This is an important resolution. It's self-evident and it's overdue, and I want to thank you for proposing the amendment. There's another item that is even closer to my heart. I have been for maybe 2 years now leading a crusade to protect the neighborhood from sexually violent predators who move into a neighborhood. The neighbors, when they find out about it, they always go down to court and say anywhere but our neighborhood, and the court quite often places them in that neighborhood.
Excuse me,
I
Member
see the
Schaefer, I want to
existing
make
law-
sure that we're clear, this is what you're discussing is not currently on the agenda, and so we can't discuss it at this time.
Well, you're asking us to approve existing law as amended. I'm just saying that the first part of existing law that says under section RTC 1603, a reduction is only possible when the taxpayer, his or her agent, makes and files a application. That's what I want to bring into question. That would be a separate item on a separate agenda. I just am talking to it because it appears on today's agenda as part of something else.
Would you like to speak?
I'm confused by his characterization because he was talking about it. You were talking about a subject, Member Schaefer, that was completely different that we had discussed at prior board meetings. And the two items we're talking about are two specific legislative proposals that we needed board approval for motions to be supported in legislation next year.
My situation is just comes to my attention because it's part of existing law. Incidentally, it's not part of your motion today, so I will withdraw my comments on that item, but let my comments as to Mr. Prea's comments stand. Okay, I have no problem with the thing. I just want you to know that I'm not endorsing RTC section 1603, and if I want to change that, I'll bring that before us on a separate item.
Okay, I think that suffices then. And we've heard your interest, Mr. Schaefer, and we can bring that back on an item.
Sure.
Yes, I'll do it that way, okay?
Okay, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Angelo. Thank you.
Right, thank you. And I support this, and are you ready for a motion on it?
Not yet. We'll take everybody's questions or comments
Thank you.
first.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to concur with Mr. Schaefer's comments about CADA. I was just down at the CADA conference the other day, and they said, wow, we asked for this harmonization of the deadlines so that people wouldn't be getting a notice and their rights have already expired, 2 weeks before. And so they were very, very pleased to see that the board was taking action on it. So that was a nice win. And one of the CADA members said, wow, I was reading your agenda for next week, and I saw that this is actually coming up. So that was kind of a nice occurrence to have.
So we got a fan club, huh?
I think we're forming a fan club, we had Mr. Prea, now we've got one other person who's part of CADA, but we're gaining momentum. And other questions or comments for Mr. Angelo before we let him close on this? Okay, anything else to add, Mr. Angelo?
I have a few just tidbits to add, but it's not on this specific item. So if you wanted to vote on the item and then I could close?
We'll do that. We'll do that. Why not?
Okay.
And so is there a motion on 19, Part 2 or Part B?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Vasquez and second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Schaefer. Okay, we'll go ahead and take public comment on item 19-2 or B. We do not have any written comments, nor is there anyone in the auditorium who wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item. So we'll go to the AT&T moderator. Moderator, if you could please let us know if there's anyone on the phone who would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda. This is 19, Part 2.
Please press 1 and 0 at this time. Please stand by. We do have a person queuing up. Please stand by. And Kate Bell, your line is open.
Sure, thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. Kate Bell on behalf of Ryan LLC. We are members of CADA, also part of the fan club. We really appreciate you putting forward this potential legislation to synchronize all assessments. This was part of a recommendation we made in our letter to the board dated September 9th earlier this year. And we just think that under the proposal, November 30th would be a better date. It would provide sole uniform annual assessment appeals dates for every California county. And as was discussed, several counties already right now have a deadline of September 15th, which is before and prior to when many taxpayers receive their bills, which go out at the end of October or November. This legislative proposal of making deadline at 30th would provide consistency, a more practical deadline, and is common sense legislation. For these reasons, we respectfully urge the BoE to sponsor this legislation in 2025, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Members,
And we have
please proceed, moderator.
no further comment.
Okay, thank you.
We have no further comments.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to the board now, and we have a motion to approve from Mr. Vasquez, seconded by Mr. Schaefer. Mr. Keddy, if you would please call the roll.
Chair Lieber.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines.
Aye.
Member Vasquez.
Aye.
Member Schaefer.
Aye?
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Thank you, members. The motion passes unanimously, and we'll go back to Mr. Angelo for the balance of your report.
So really, all I wanted to say, in addition to the two items that were for vote, is the legislature comes back on January 6th. So we will have, as it's a new two-year session, we'll have new committee chairs, potentially, and 25 plus so members new to the legislature. I can't remember if it was 25 in the Assembly and 12 in the Senate, or if it was 25 overall, because I don't have the stats in front of me. But I will be getting a report to you on the members of the Rev and Tax Committee specifically, and of all the policy committees and the chairs, as they are determined in January, late January, probably, as new members of the legislature talk about what committees they'd like to be on and whatnot. So that'll be forthcoming. And I just wanted to give you a heads up on that, as well as the legislative bulletin from this prior year will be finalized and be made available to all of you for bills that are going into law that were either already signed into law as urgency clauses are starting January 1 of next year. And I think that's about it, unless you have any other questions.
Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, were you able to attend that December 2nd hearing on the budget?
You mean the
one the governor, or listened to it, I guess.
Yes, I was able to, when they called the special session, and that was really, it was an organizational session for the new members that were going to be sworn in for the new legislative session, which starts January. You know, it was a special session, and they had some items. I think they have a $25 million fund to protect California against health care.
Yes.
I don't have the data in front of me, but yes, I did watch it. I just don't have a breakdown of what occurred that day in front of me.
If you can get that out to us, that'd be great.
Okay.
And then just for your information, I think this week, the speaker's going to be starting assigning committees, so you might want to stay on top of that.
Okay.
So we can get that.
Yeah, it happens sometimes early, sometimes there's a lot of jockeying going on for where that's going to happen. So, and what the other thing I wanted to say is these are the legislative proposals we were asking you to sponsor, but that doesn't mean that you won't be able to support others or come up with something, because the bill introduction deadline is later in February. So we're going to have bills being introduced, now up until that deadline. And so, if Mr. Schaefer has ideas and things like that, and it's agendized and want to discuss that at another time, that can be discussed then. So I'll close with that.
Okay. Thank you very much. And members, our last item for today is closing remarks and our adjournment. Members, would you like to share any final remarks for today before we adjourn? Mr. Vasquez.
Mine's more of an adjournment. Do you want me to do it now, or?
Please.
Okay. I just want to briefly mention too, last month I was cut short and I didn't get a chance to, and I wanted to, if we could adjourn in the memory of a couple of lost folks that we had, one in the sports and the other one in the entertainment industry. The one in the entertainment industry was Quincy Jones. You know, he was such a phenomenal brain surgeon, especially as the arrangements on conductors and some of the productions, you know. He was able to live up until, I think it was 91, but he had so much, you know, I think it was 28 Grammys and a Tony, and had several nominations for, I think he had 7 actually Oscars. Of course, 4 Golden Globe Awards, produced many, many records of some top notch, you know, going to Michael Jackson, even Frank Sinatra and Count Basie. And he's going to be sorely missed. The last one I wanted to mention is fellow Trojan here, Coach John Robinson, who we lost also. Not only did he coach the Trojans, but he also got into the professional world with the Los Angeles Rams. Had a great career starting at the University of Oregon and then moved into USC, where he became first the offensive coordinator and then moved into as the head coach. And I didn't realize he had such a tight relationship with John Madden from Oakland up here, from the Oakland Raiders. And Robinson, you know, he had 5 Pac-10 titles, total of 7 bowl game victories, actually starting in '78 when I was at USC. But he's another one that'll be sorely missed. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for raising the names of Quincy Jones and Coach John Robinson to us. I think Quincy Jones really remade the music industry in a way that benefited artists, and in particular African-American artists, to be able to claim their own works and make a living off of them. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Mr. Schaefer.
Yes, Madam Chair. You know, when I was a kid, we hardly ever had the thought of any shooting going on in a school, and it's become a way of life in this past decade. Just yesterday, we had 2 killings at a school in Madison, Wisconsin, a teenage student and a teacher. My closing remarks would be a prayer that we have the year ahead be free of any student violence.
Thank you so much for that. Mr. Emron, did you have one?
Yes, Madam Chair, is very echoing Mr. Schaefer's comments, and I wanted to focus it on a school here in Oroville, California, where 2 little boys were shot earlier this month and remain in critical condition. I want to say their names for the record: 6-year-old Roman Mendez and 5-year-old Elias Walford. Both remain in critical condition. There's been some heartbreaking news that one of the little boys may never walk again. And they have a long road to recovery ahead. So I want to send a prayer out to these boys and their families against a very evil and heinous attack. I believe the shooter, who is now deceased, came under the guise of wanting to enroll their student, a fake daughter into that school. And we know that guns are the leading cause of death for children in the United States. And into 2025, I want to continue to focus this crusade against eradicating gun violence in our schools. And what are those little kids' crime? Just going to school, and they end up being shot, forever changing their lives. So, as Mr. Schaefer said, let's continue to work on this issue. And I just want to continue to pray for these little kids. It's heartbreaking, and my thoughts and prayers also to the victims in Madison and Wisconsin too. Thank you.
Thank you both to Mr. Schaefer and Mr. Emron for raising that note of care. It's a very important topic, so thank you. Mr. Gaines.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to take this moment to recognize Dave McCoy, who is really the pioneer of Mammoth Mountain Ski Resort. And so there was a portion of Highway 395 that was dedicated to him by Senator Alvarado Gill. And he was truly an icon. He's described by his daughter, Penny McCoy. Life was never about Dad. Nothing ever really was, nor was true wealth and pursuit of fame and fortune. It was about serving others, she said. His destiny was about family and friends, fun and recreation of lives, and the pioneer spirit within. Ultimately, Dad was about love. So I thought that was a beautiful quote by his daughter. He lived, I believe he was over 100 years old. And I mean, he basically built that resort, which I skied at a couple weeks ago. So, and lots of folks from LA County and the southern part of the state come up there to ski, and that Eastern Sierra is gorgeous, just beautiful. A lot of Ansel Adams photography shot there decades ago. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gaines. Mr. McCoy is definitely one of the legends of California, so we appreciate you raising his name. So members, we're at that magic time where we're ready to adjourn. The next board meeting will be Thursday, January 23rd, 2025 at 10 a.m. at the May Lee State Office Complex here in Sacramento. We are adjourned.